In today's world of digital photography, you can edit a photo forever. So how do you know when to stop? Let's talk about it on today's episode of
Ask David Bergman.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back. Here I am, as always, answering your photography questions right here on Adorama TV. If you've got a photo question, you know what to do by now. Just go to askdavidbergman.com, submit that form on the site, and I just might pick your question to answer right here on a future show. Now listen, before we go in today's question, I've got some exciting news and I need your help. I'm thrilled to be nominated again for Favorite Tour Photographer at the iHeartRadio Music Awards. Now, there are so many incredible photographers nominated, and it's awesome to see a major award show giving recognition to tour photography. The winner is totally determined by fan voting, and that's where you come in. If you've followed my work with Luke Combs, Bon Jovi, or Sports Illustrated, taken one of my live workshops, or just enjoy seeing the hundreds of free photography educational videos I've done right here, I'd appreciate your vote. Just go to votebergman.com and that'll take you right to the official voting page. You can give me 50 votes a day, and if you do it between 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern, you actually get 100 votes. If you vote every day until March 10th, 2025, and help spread the word, I think we might have a shot at winning this thing. Then tune into the Red Carpet Pre-Show on March 17th and see how it goes. That site again is votebergman.com, and I'll put a link in the description below. No matter what happens, I do sincerely appreciate your continued support, and I'm grateful to be a part of this amazing photography community. All right, with that out of the way, let's get to today's question. It was sent in by Benjamin T, and he wants to know, I'm retired, coming back to photography, and I'm just learning digital. Shooting film meant lots of planning, getting the right light, right film, and right exposure. Digital seems to be more about collecting data on a sensor and post-processing it to look like whatever you want. How do you know when to stop editing to avoid creating something that wasn't really photographed or is even unnatural? Does it matter? Well, thanks, Benjamin, for sending that in, and welcome to the world of digital photography. While you can't beat the convenience of seeing your images right away, it does open up a whole world of editing possibilities. Knowing how far to take it is a common issue, not only for photographers like yourself who are transitioning over from film, but also for new photographers who are just starting out and are presented with a virtually unlimited collection of editing tools and plugins. Now, as you said, back in the film days, most of our creative choices were made before we even pressed the shutter. That's because film wasn't just a blank slate. It had a personality of its own. The film stock you chose had a huge impact on the final image. For example, you could shoot Velvia for vibrancy and fine grain, T-Max 3200 for gritty black and white, or Kodachrome for iconic colors and contrast. Each film had a unique look, and once you committed to it, you were locked in. Getting your exposure right was just as critical. There was no histogram, no instant preview, and no fix it in post. If you overexpose slide film, you lose highlight detail forever. Underexpose negative film too much, and you're going to end up with muddy shadows. You really had to know your light and exposure settings. Now, you might have also decided to put physical filters on your lenses. If you wanted to darken the sky, you'd use a polarizer or graduated neutral density. You didn't have digital sliders. You could make some changes when processing the film or printing in the darkroom, but you didn't have anywhere near the amount of control that we have today. The bottom line is that you had to be deliberate and confident in your choices because there wasn't much room to change things later. Now today, digital flips that whole process upside down. Instead of committing to a film stock, you're just capturing raw data. Your camera sensor records as much information as possible, and you can decide later how it should look. Exposure, contrast, color, sharpness, you can change all of that after the fact. White balance, fix it in post. Blow your highlights, just recover them from the raw. Didn't use a filter? Add it later in Lightroom. Digital gives us more control than ever before. But with that freedom comes a challenge, knowing when to stop. And unlike film, where every shot costs money, digital lets you experiment endlessly. You can tweak an image forever, but at some point, you risk overprocessing and making it look unnatural. So, how do you know when you've gone too far? Well, a good sign is unnatural colors. Neon blues, radioactive greens, or skin tones that look orange. If a sunset looks too perfect, or if skin looks too smooth, you've probably overdone it. Another big one is over-sharpening. A little sharpening helps details to pop, but too much makes edges look harsh and creates ugly halos. A personal pet peeve of mine is when I see clarity added to skin. It's just too gritty and I don't think it looks natural. Now you can also go too far the other way. some photographers retouch skin so much that faces look like plastic dolls. Skin is supposed to have texture. If you take away all of the pores and wrinkles, you lose all of the character and your subjects don't look real. You can also go too far with things like high dynamic range. A little bit of HDR can be useful for retaining detail, but when you push it too much, it creates that fake, overcooked look where shadows glow and skies look painted. If your photo looks more like a video game than reality, it might be time to dial it back. A great way to check yourself: step away. Take a break, then come back and look at the image again an hour later or even the next day. What seemed great at the time might suddenly feel way over the top. So, does it really matter how much you edit? Well, that depends on what you're shooting. If you're doing photojournalism or documentary work, editing has to be minimal. As a former newspaper photographer, I can tell you that reputable news organizations have strict ethical rules. Adjustments for exposure and color are fine, but if you start removing things or altering reality, you could get fired. Commercial photography? That depends on the job. Fashion and advertising often involve heavy retouching because clients want a polished look, but there's a balance. If an image looks just too fake, it can turn off your potential customers. If you're doing fine art photography, there really are no limits. You can push and pull an image as much as you want. Some fine art photographers composite multiple images, change skies, or completely alter colors. It's really all fair game. And if it's just your own personal work, totally up to you. Some photographers prefer minimal edits, while others go all in with color grading, HDR, or composites. There's no right or wrong answer, and it's just about your own artistic vision. The key is to develop your own editing style. Just because you can tweak every single pixel doesn't mean that you should. For my concert photography, I want fans to look at my images and feel like they're back at the show. I don't do much beyond cropping and basic toning. But when my images are used for advertising, a designer might take them much further. That's their job, and their goals and creative limits are different than mine. So, Benjamin, at the end of the day, I believe that editing should enhance your images without overpowering them. If you're stripping away the emotion or authenticity of an image, you might be going too far. Trust your instincts and step away when needed. Remember, editing is just a tool. I believe that most of the magic happens when you're behind the camera, capturing a great image in the first place. What do you all think? How do you decide when an edit is done? Do you prefer to keep things natural? Do you like to push the limits in post? Let me know down in the comments below. Remember, you can always send in your own photo questions by going to askdavidbergman.com. If you like these videos, I appreciate you hitting that like button and, of course, subscribing to the Adorama YouTube channel. Click that bell icon so you're notified when new shows come out from me and all the hosts here on Adorama TV. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope to see you back here next time right here on Ask David Bergman.